Today we're gonna look at how powerful these banned modern cards are. We're gonna go now look at Dig Through Time. Blue, 6 generic for a delve spell. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. Put 2 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. And make no mistake, this is a ridiculously powerful card, but a little funny thing about Dig Through Time is that it barely saw play in Modern. No joke! There were not many decks at the top playing this thing because this existed at the exact same time as Treasure Cruise, which we'll get to eventually. And Treasure Cruise stole the thunder. Basically, the top decks were Blue-Red Delver with Treasure Cruise, Burn with Treasure Cruise, and then not really a whole lot else. Now, I think the only deck that utilized this was Splinter Twin, but most of the Twin players opted to play something like, opted to play Delver, actually. As weird as that sounds, this really took up most of the metagame. This was like a 25%er of the metagame. It was insane. Just because of how cheap the deck was. Like, the deck was mostly commons. I think your most expensive card, you have Fork Bolt, Ataxian Probe, Serum Visions, Treasure Cruise was a common. So anyway, this actually sucked up most of the attention. Delver, Swift Spear, 2 Snapcaster Mages, 4 Young Pyromancer. Your budget was basically Snapcaster Mages and some form of fetch lands. And you didn't even need all the Scalding Tarns if you really didn't want to. I mean, it was optimal to go get your mountain, but there are a lot of people who just played this as like a budget deck, and it was super top tier. So Dig Through Time actually didn't really see a whole lot of play, because by the time that they banned Treasure Cruise, they were just like, oh, okay, well, Dig Through Time is probably going to be the next one, and they just banned it as well. But if we were to take a look at something like Pioneer, where Dig Through Time did see a lot of play, and, you know, debatably, I'm not saying this is how it should have been, but debatably they could ban Dig Through Time over, say, the what is the Eldrazi inverter of something, the inverter guy. They could have banned Dig Through Time over that to make the deck less consistent, because Dig Through Time most certainly was a fantastic combo piece, not only for draining the Pioneer graveyard, but also digging for the combo pieces in the Dimir Inverter deck. Brian says, saw the title and immediately thought of Chaos Orb and Falling Star. That has nothing to do with this. It would have been cool to see more physical dexterity-based effects in the game. Would you? Would you? I don't know. I don't know if I could handle something like that. Like, we're constantly spacing everything out on the battlefield, or when you play Chaos Orb, are you allowed to, like, push everything away? I don't know, it's like, yeah, the Inverter of Truth, that's right. So, this card didn't really see a whole lot of play in Modern. Yeah, they just assumed that it was going to get broken in half, just like how it was in Legacy. Because in Legacy, they banned Treasure Cruise pretty quickly, and then they followed that up with Dig Through Time. So, for Modern, they just assumed that Dig Through Time would just be the next Treasure Cruise anyway, which they're right. They're right, it would. It's 2 really good quality cards, even though it's a little bit more clunkier to cast at double blue. But it would have been really, really good. The Inverter and the Inverter of Truth. And the truth is that was such a cool deck. You left us too soon, Inverter. You left us too soon. I wish they just banned everything else from the deck and kept the core of the deck still there. That's too bad. Anyway, back to the Modern discussion. All right, what do we got next? We've got Dread Return. I never saw this thing see play. When did this get banned? Was it like banned during the creation of the format? Black, 2 generic sorcery. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Flashback, sacrifice 3 creatures. You may cast this card from your graveyard for its flashback cost, then exile it. It would have been an amazing piece in a Dredge deck, and I'm sure that there are actually more combo decks that could make use out of this card. Dredge could then just throw in some sort of I don't know. Some big fatty. Lord knows they've got tons of creatures that they can sacrifice between the Narcomoebas, between the prized amalgams, between Bloodghast. I mean, there's a lot of ways of really breaking this card. I mean, it would be a super reanimator deck. Dredge return. Hell no! Stay banned. It's free. Oh yeah, we're not talking about if we should unban these cards. We're just asking ourselves how powerful are these cards. And this probably would just be insanely powerful. It's probably the shot in the arm that Dredge needs, actually, to get back in this metagame. Really good with your mill your whole library trigger of Narcomoebas, Dread return Thassa's Oracle. I play the... Oh, that is a very interesting combo. Yeah, mill your entire library, just get it all in the graveyard. I'm sure you have some Narcomoebas along the way. Dread return the Thassa's Oracle, and boom. Clean, easy victory. Yeah, there would definitely be new archetypes that would come into existence if Dread Return was a thing. Flare of the Hatebound is the Dread Return target, I think. Flare of the Hate. Which is an undying creature. When Flare of the Hatebound or another creature enters the battlefield from your graveyard, that creature deals damage equal to its power to any target. Whoa! That is pretty good. That is a good one. Yes, this is something Dredge is very much interested in. Your stuff dies, but then it comes back and then it shoots your opponent in the face. So there's like... The main problem with this card is it's near damn impossible to interact with. Like, let's say they mill it into the graveyard. You don't have priority. They get to... Or maybe you will. With Narcomoeba and Prized Amalgam triggers on the stack, you could try to interact with Dread Return. But that's really hard. It's like a card in the graveyard. It's very, very difficult. Yeah, who doesn't love free cards? And pseudo-free interaction. Really difficult card to play around. I mean, you're either completely wiping out your opponent's graveyard or not at all. And if you're not at all, you're in deep, deep, deep crap. So Dread Return definitely is a super ultra powerful card. So powerful, sees a lot of play in Legacy. Legacy Reanimator type. There's Legacy graveyard-based deck lists. Okay. Chat. Man, was anyone there? Was anyone there to see the power of Ayavugan? The power of the Eldrazi Menace. The Eldrazi's. So, Ayavugan, colorless Eldrazi spells you cast cost 2 less to cast. Pay 7, tap, search your library for a colorless creature card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Then shuffle your library. This is the type of card that it was completely fair while the Eldrazi were like 15 mana, 12 mana, 10 mana. Who cares? Because hey, you got 2 off? No big deal. No big deal at all. But then when you get to things like Eldrazi Mimic, which would then cost 0, and Thought-Knot Seer, which would then cost 2 mana. We have like Reality Smasher, which would then cost 3 mana. Oh my god, this all of a sudden became crazy. Especially since, like, because Eldrazi Mimic can be cast for free, if you have multiple Eldrazi Mimics in your hand, you could just dump them all on the board. You could put like 3 to 4 Eldrazi Mimics on the battlefield. And I've seen it on camera. It happened. And then you follow it up turn 2 with Thought-Knot Seer. Those 3 Eldrazi Mimics are now 4/4s. Because when another colorless creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may change Eldrazi Mimic's base power and toughness to that creature's power and toughness until end of turn. So they'll become 4/4s and smack you for 12. Smack you for 12. You hit slapped. Reusable tutor permanent? What could possibly go wrong? Most people didn't use the tutor ability. I mean, that wasn't... Usually didn't have enough mana to get to that, but the fact that you could... It was like a soul land, you know? It was like how Legacy has ancient... What is it called? Ancient... Temple? No. What is the temple? What are the soul lands? We've got... City of Traders. So City of Traders and I can't remember if it's called Ancient or Temple. Ancient something. Ancient Tomb. There we go. Brian F. with the save. I don't want to see this one. I want to see this one. So this is like the only way we could, or sorry, this is Legacy's way of having soul lands and yeah, going big with combo decks or stompy decks. Well, we had Ivugan and Eldrazi Temple. But only one deck could play these cards. Anyway, Eldrazi Temple was okay. Although there was some debate. Honestly, it was weird. There was debate back then which one they should ban. In my eyes, it's clearly Ivugan. But some people thought, well, Tron at the time played Ivugan, believe it or not. And, because they actually used the tutoring part of this to find their win conditions. It's like, oh, you don't want to hurt Tron. You're going to take Tron out of the metagame. Do you realize how stupid the analysts for Modern are? They're so bad. They are so ridiculously bad. Tron is still a deck today. Not to mention that, like, naturally, Wizards of the Coast are just going to print cards that are going to be accessible for Tron. Anyway, the right call was to ban Ivugan and leave Eldrazi Temple. Although this card still is super broken. It's a super broken land, but it can only be played by one deck. Millmaster with the super chat. Thanks so much for the $14.92. None are more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe they are free. What beautiful words. You're a poet, Millmaster. You're a poet. It's a soul land that doesn't tap. One argument that they had for Ivugan that would, in theory, it's worse, is that you can't stack Ivugan like you can stack Eldrazi Temple. You can go one temple into another. So if you banned Eldrazi Temple, you could never have a turn 2 Thought-Knot Seer off of just lands, because this thing is legendary, and you can't float mana off of it. So there was one argument. Who knows? Maybe... I'm not going to assume what was better or worse. As time played out, it was okay to have Eldrazi Temple. And, you know, it was okay. It was okay that we banned Ivugan. But it is a soul land, and while... You know, it'd be interesting. We have a lot more free spells to deal with fast creatures these days. We could deal with the speed, although I like Modern that it's slower. I think that was the flavor of Modern over something like Legacy. It was a slower format. It's a clunkier format. Slow and clunky. I like my format nice and slow and clunky. What's a comparison that I could make? I like my formats like I like... my internet? Slow and clunky, that doesn't work. Okay, well, yeah, but the problem with I is it discounts every Eldrazi by 2. If you cast 2 in a turn, the land is effectively producing 4 mana. Yes, exactly. Well, I mean, there's not many cards that could take advantage of it, though. Basically just Eldrazi Mimic. Although, combined with, Urborg, this thing does add more mana, because all of a sudden, if you have Urborg on the battlefield, you can, tap the Ivugan for mana. Also, stuff like Spirit Guide Mox were still legal. They were. Mox and the Seaman Spirit Guide was played in those Eldrazi decks to get those turn 2 Reality Smashers out. Dark times. Very dark times back then. Wizards should make more legendary spell lands just to make sure that stuff doesn't stack that much. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of people who thought a lot of those castles should have been legendary. Valakut should be legendary. What the hell's wrong? They should errata this. And this was, we could talk about this a little bit. It was a banned card. Used to be, then it got unbanned. Valakut, the Molten Pinnacle, enters the battlefield tapped. So how many Valakuts are there? Are there tons of them? This looks like Mount Doom. It sounds like, you know, there's only one Valakut out there. That's it. Who's for errata? And if it was legendary, it would be so much better. Because then, well, better for the people who play against Valakut decks. You could easily just snipe one off if it's on the battlefield. You could... You would have... I think there's a lot of circumstances where your opponent would have to get more lands in play. Or you would... I think you would survive a little bit more often if they can only go fetch for one Valakut. Majority of the cases, I think you're dead anyway, but... Anyway. I swear I remember it being legendary. I know. That volcano over there is Valakut. Oh, that Valakut too. Yeah, exactly. Weird stuff. Valakut being legendary would kill Rug Scapeshift. No, it wouldn't. And if you... I don't think it would kill it at all. You still just operate with one. You just still have to get to 7 lands. It doesn't change anything. I think Mara wrote something about them not wanting to do legendary lands at that time. That's really weird. The land set with no legendaries. What is Magozi? Oh yeah, that is not legendary. And I assume there is only one Magozi the Water Veil. We just wouldn't want to make it legendary. That's all. Just didn't feel like it. Oh, that room and the text box. We were trying to save on black ink. Anyway, okay, Ivugan, super broken card in Modern. Oh, here's a debatable one. Oh man, the debate. Here it starts. Faithless Looting. There are so many people that want this thing unbanned, and they're fools. They're absolutely ridiculous fools. 1 red, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. Flashback, red 2 generic. Do the same thing all over again. This is what enabled probably the most broken, stupid decks in Modern ever. Ever, ever, ever. We're talking Dredge. We're talking Hogak. We're talking Hollow One. All it did, we're talking Arclight Phoenix. All it did was to make sure that you go completely boom on turn 2. That's all it was. Turn 1, set up some insane turn 2. Turn 2, go nuts. That was basically the game plan of every Faithless Looting deck. Except for maybe Mardu Pyromancer. That was the only one. So, I mean, so there was Hogak. That wasn't a fair deck whatsoever. There was Dredge. Oh, let's put a prized amalgam on here. There was the Hollow One deck. Like, these were... I might be missing a few. Sumerian, Robot, Faithless Looting broken, but fun card, absolutely. Well, fun for the person playing it. I wonder if making you discard first would change it significantly. It would. It would absolutely... It would, but it would still see a whole lot of play. It would still see a ton of play. Can you imagine this with Dragon Rage Channel and Murktide? I don't think they'd play it. Honestly, I think card advantage still matters in that matchup, and they're losing cards, and they're more of a slower deck, and they're not like... Here's the thing, like decks with Faithless Looting, or here, let's put Arclight Phoenix for example. Arclight Phoenix. The whole point of something like Faithless Looting is that the cards you discard are still basically in your hand, because your graveyard is just an extension of your hand. So if you draw 2 cards, discard 2 Phoenixes, you lost nothing. It was basically 1 blue, draw 2 cards. Because Arclight, and maybe even more than that, because the Arclight Phoenix gets basically cheated into play. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you cast 3 or more instant and/or sorcery spells this turn, return Arclight Phoenix from your graveyard to the battlefield. But cards like decks like Murktide can't take advantage of that very well. You know, you dump a whole bunch of cards in your graveyard, but then you exile them to get Murktide in play. I don't think you would see play. I don't think they would use that card. The flashback is the problem, maybe. Reprint careful study. I would disagree. Unbound Faithless, so I can sell my 300 copies of it. Let's be clear just about this, because a lot of people say, well, let's have careful study in the format. I think the front end of Faithless Looting is the dangerous part, not the back end. It's the front end. It's the 1 mana, put the stuff in the graveyard to set up a big turn 2 to get it underneath your opponent. There's got to be some cards that are like pay 2 mana, rummage, or loot, and then there's a flashback. Are there any? Or it's got some sort of flashback of some sort. Can anyone name any? I'm sure there is. I'm sure there's like clunkier versions of Faithless Looting. The flashback on Faithless Looting was only used when you somehow ran out of cards. Yeah, I mean, it's a bonus, but it's that 1 mana draw 2, discard 2. That's the problem. That's what establishes the busted turn 2 starts. What about Cathartic Pyre? Cathartic Pyre. Discard up to 2 cards, then draw that many cards. This is not anything special, in my opinion. Deal 3 damage to target creature or player. I mean, it's actually it's useful. It's flexible. That's the card I'm looking at. It's flexible. So even if you're not going to rummage or something, then you at least deal 3 damage to target creature or player. Is Faithless Salvaging what I'm thinking of? Faithless Salvaging. There we go. There, perfect. Okay, well, no, this is not perfect, because you're spending 2 mana just to get like a whole Faithless Looting. Discard a card, then draw a card. Is there not another flashback, or is this the best we got? Maybe it is. Faithful Mending. That's the blue-white gain life one. This is probably the best version. So Faithful Mending, you gain 2 life, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards, and it has flashback, and it barely sees any play. Some people have tried, but at the end of the day, it don't see play. Or at least not in like I think the best part it might see play is some sort of slow reanimator deck of some sort, or even sort of a Gifts Ungiven deck. Or not Gifts Ungiven. What's Unburial Rites? That's what I'm really looking for. So I think Faithful Mending is a great example of, okay, here's your Faithless Looting, and you get to gain some life too, and it's instant speed, but it costs 2 mana, and honestly it also costs 2 mana in a part of the color pie that's really awkward. But it also has the 3 mana flashback, and it's just not there. Nobody sees it. Yeah, I think my favorite go-to would be Is a Charm. Interestingly enough, that's on no play whatsoever. Nobody even tried to play like Hollow One with Is a Charm or anything like that. But the 3 cost on the front end and the 1 mana on the flashback cost, that's probably dangerous too, because then you'll just work to get the flashback card. Like Dredge won't care. Dredge will just play regular Dredge, dump cards in the graveyard, and just play things for its flashback. You'll just work to get those cards into the graveyard. So this was a pretty oppressive card. And this was one of those cards that people felt the pain for probably a whole year. Like, we already knew that this card was broken, although the Faithless Looting gang, the Faithless Looting crowd, kept denying it. Oh, there's nothing wrong with Faithless Looting. And also, you can't ban Faithless Looting. You're going to ban Mardu Pyromancer out of the format. Good riddance. I really don't care. We're not going to say. And just for the record, Mardu Pyromancer saw no play by the time that Faithless Looting was banned. Nothing. Because it was completely replaced by all the better Faithless Looting decks. It saw nothing. No play. It was completely dead. That's the same thing with Affinity, with Urza, with the Urza decks. Like, Affinity was a completely dead archetype by the time that they banned Mox Opal. But you lose so much cards with Is a Charm. Team or Scapeship used to play it. Yeah, you do. You do. Well, I mean, you lose cards with Faithless Looting, but this is mana efficient. You could play this for on turn 1, and you could also chain this on turn 2 with other cards. So the moment that it hits 2 mana, it's basically unplayable. But 1 mana, that's where it's at. That's where you always want to be. Ooh, this is an awkward one. Field of the Dead. Enters the battlefield tapped. Add a generic mana. When Field of the Dead or another land enters the battlefield under your control, if you control 7 or more lands with different names, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. This card, hey, make no mistake, Primeval Titan, you got to... Field of the Dead died so that you got to live. This card actually was seeing play in very few decks. It was basically the Uro deck, and I think the Titan deck, and I think that's it. Although, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's proven to be pretty problematic in other formats, but mostly in formats that don't have land destruction, like Pioneer doesn't have. Pioneer has land destruction, I'm not gonna lie, it's got something. They got Field of Ruin and stuff like that. If your argument is banning this card will ban the deck I play for free wins, then I have no sympathy. Exactly. I have no sympathy for the free win players. The card is disgusting. Bad card. KBG says they miss Field of the Dead. This wasn't even seeing play immediately. It took some time for people to start playing with this card and then adopting in more decks until it became like just a staple of the format and a win condition by itself. The Uro decks, they just had to play lands. Wow, that was a wild time. Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath. There was once a time that this card was in the same deck as this card, and so you could just ramp your way to Field of the Dead. You didn't even have to try to win with Uro. If you did, I mean, that's just a bonus, but Field of the Dead by itself can do all the work. When Field of the Dead or another land enters the battlefield under your control, you may, if you control 7 or more lands with different names, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So those fetch lands, they added 2 black zombies. And unlike, weirdly enough, this is more broken than Valakut because it sets up a defense. Valakut could not set up a defense. Like, there are definitely turns where you get Valakut out and you can deal 3 to 6 damage to stuff because it's active. But that 3 to 6 damage was not worth nearly as much as making zombie creature tokens to stabilize against aggressive decks. And then, over time, then you just, like, completely swamp the battlefield with zombie creature tokens. I got so bored of seeing Golos, Field of the Dead, and EDH. Well, they banned Golos, so no more nastiness with Golos. This card, Uro and Golos, was so nasty in Standard. Blue-White played it as well for the late game win con. Yep, I mean a lot of decks adopted Field of the Dead. Do you think Field would have been as good if the zombies entered the battlefield tapped? No, probably not. The saving grace of Field of the Dead was that it set up blockers. That's a really good point that no one brought up. I don't remember that argument at the time. And it doesn't look like much, but for the mana ramp decks, I mean, they just took over. They just took over. Is it banned because it takes too much time to kill the opponent in opposition to Valakut? No, not at all. You kill your opponent really quickly. The problem with this card is that the slower mid-range players could stabilize too easily versus aggro decks. Like, ideally, we want the fast aggro decks to beat the big mana decks. Like, that's the balance of the world. But it wasn't happening because Field of the Dead would put zombies in play just soon enough to stabilize. And once you got a few zombies, then soon enough you're going to deal with a billion zombies. Field of the Dead is why I want more Blood Moon type of effects. It will. And we had Blood Moon in the format and it didn't matter. I think Arths says, I think it's better to ban Field than force meta to shift into LD. Oh, land destruction. Thank you for the power. For love of the page, play land destruction. Well, that's the thing. It's not easy to do that because by the time Field of the Dead enters the battlefield, you're going to get value. You're going to get triggers. And in fact, you get Field of the Dead out, get a trigger, maintain priority, play something like Uro to put a fetch land in play, still maintain priority. Well, I don't. It's their turn. A lot of land destruction is sorcery speed, right? If you all love the community around MTG, you guys should like the stream. Go out and play, guys. That's right. Thank you very much, Blue to Coop. Ponza, the hero we need, not the hero we want. By the way, Ponza did see quite a bit of play around this time. This is when, what's it called? The Glory Bringer red-green aggro mid-range deck started to come up, and it was one of the main cards in that deck was Blood Moon. Yeah, Blood Moon was a great card at that time. Not enough people could play it. Although, you know, that's why the M. Hayashi mono red deck was so good. It also played Blood Moon. Anyway, this is a very, very, very good card. I think unless, like, what's it called? Unless we get Wasteland in the format, this is just going to be banned for eternity. Next up, Ataxian Probe. To be fair, we could probably live with this thing in the format. We would just be disgusted every single time we have to play against it. It's banned because it lets the combo player know that the coast is clear. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. They like Ataxian Probe, you're like, oh, you have nothing to defend yourself against what, you know, against my infect creatures, against my combo deck. I'm just gonna combo off right here, right now. That's what it does. Play Peak. You know, that 1 mana just changes everything, especially for a combo deck. If they want to combo off on their turn, on that turn, right then and there, they need every mana they can get. Probe is too efficient. Is absolutely too efficient. So the card itself isn't powerful per se, but how it enables the combo decks was just too frustrating, and it slowed the infect deck down a lot. It slowed it down a lot. You know, if you can't peek into their hand, the card is definitely if you can't peek into their hand, all of a sudden Magic becomes very, very difficult. I think Ataxian Probe proved to us how useful it is to just have perfect information. This is why I always say Thoughtseize. People completely misevaluate the value of Thoughtseize. Because people think Thoughtseize is good because you can rip cards out of your opponent's hand. No! Like, that's like maybe 60% of the card, but the other 40% of the card is the Ataxian Probe effect, because it's basically the same thing. You're losing 2 life and you get to see your opponent's hand. Like, that is a lot of value people underestimate. It's not like take the best card of your opponent's hand and then they're allowed to shuffle cards from their hand back into their deck and draw that many cards off their library, so they're working with imperfect information again. Yeah, this is a no free wins community. We gotta make sure that Ataxian Probe doesn't get out of control. The only thing that Probe really does is enable BS combo decks. Wasn't it ever played in a fair deck? I don't think so. I don't think so. Like, having Probe, Death Shadow, Thoughtseize in the same deck just sounds like hell. It was. You know what, to be honest, they had the deck that played Ataxian Probe was more janky at the time. It was a Death Shadow Zoo deck. It wasn't until they banned Ataxian Probe that they decided, okay, well, let's push aside the Death Shadow Zoo deck and let's make a much better Death Shadow deck, which is the Death Shadow deck we now play against today. What if Probe didn't draw a card? That would make it fair. I think it would make it fair. It's a really good point. Hell, it was like a cantrip in Storm decks at the time as well. Peak is an instant fetch shock pass peak. Yeah, but that you give your opponent another turn in that case. Like, if you draw your combo card on your turn, you want to know right then and there. You don't want to pass the turn and let your opponent draw an extra card, have more mana, blah blah blah. All of the cards that effectively reduce your deck sizes are really good. I don't really buy the deck size argument, because then that would, in theory, that means everyone should be playing with, is it Shriekmaw? No, it's not Street Wraith. I mean, that in theory, if shrinking your deck was so important, everyone would play with Street Wraith. And I heard that argument too. It was a really, really bad argument. Oh, we got to ban Ataxian Probe. It's too many people are playing with 56 card decks. Okay, yeah, well, if drawing a card was so important, then just play a Street Wraith. But no one does that. That is so weird. Anything with Phyrexian mana was just stupid at the time. Ataxian Probe is better than Peak, but Peak is almost as good. You know, I don't think it is. I actually don't think Peak is as good. Hence why it doesn't see any play whatsoever. And another thing, I guess, though, also, you need blue for Peak. You don't need any blue for Ataxian Probe. Street Wraith is amazing in the right deck, as Moranica, Martika, Dasna, Kuldakar wants for Street Wraith. Would a Phyrexian sorcery opt be too good? That's a good question. I don't know. That might be fair. To all you Coffee and MTG guys out there, 10 more likes to the stream and he got over 30 viewers more. That's the algo. Is that true? I don't know how many likes I need. Okay, smash that like button. Let's see what happens. See what happens to the algorithm. Deck size reduction becomes relevant when deck sizes are smaller. Well, of course it. Oh no, that doesn't change. I don't think that changes much. Yu-Gi-Oh banned all the cards that can slot into any deck and effectively shrink your deck size, but they're sitting at 40 minimum. You could say the same thing about cantrips. Well, I mean, I know the argument, but I don't think that's the sole value of the card. Of course, the smaller your deck gets, the more impactful it gets, but it still matters at 60 cards. Kevin Sellers, players in MTG and Yu-Gi-Oh both love to argue that playing that a free draw one card is powerful, but it's really marginal at best. I agree. It's well, it's not nothing. It's just not. It's not worth paying 2 life. Let me put it that way. You're not gonna pay 2 life to have a smaller deck. It's as simple as that. You're not gonna do. You prove it to me. Go do it. No, you're not gonna do it. Mr. Wapsis, love your content. Nikachu, keep going. I absolutely will. So it's a combination of being a hand peak and free cantrip that made it especially borked. Borked in combo decks. Borked. I've never heard that term to frame something as OP. It's borked! But the silliest combos that try to turn one would go for Probe and Wraith. From now on, if something's OP, it's borked. Street Wraith was cycling 1 black Phyrexian mana, it would see a lot more cycling. If only if it was Phyrexian mana, that's when it's broken. You don't know Bork? I don't know Bork. You mean the singer? Is there a singer named Bork? The Bork Continuum. I'm gonna have to look it up after the stream. Is it banned in Commander 2? No, Commander doesn't care. Commander? Care about Ataxian Probe? Yeah, let me look at one player's hand, and maybe that will matter at all. No, it will not matter. The stream is borked. Yeah, exactly. All right, so our next card, the Ataxian Probe, it was subtle, but history spoke to us in all the formats, Legacy, Modern, and Pauper, that this card was just way too good. It made the engine too smooth for those decks, and that free information was too strong. So it absolutely is super banned. Next, we have Glimpse of Nature. But before we get into that card, we have to thank our sponsors, starting with FusionGamingOnline.com. Deal of the week this week. I think this is your last few seconds to take advantage of this. Yeah, 15% off all core set singles. That's reserve list cards, people. You want those 15% at FusionGamingOnline.com. That can be Soul Rings, Mana Vaults, Underground Seas, Tropical Islands, Volcanic Islands. Get them all at FusionGamingOnline.com. Don't forget to use coupon code Nikachu though at checkout for 5% off all your purchases, and also supports the channel. We're also going to thank Mana Traders, the premier place for renting Magic cards online and your ability to play any deck, any format, anytime that you want. I'm getting into Pauper. I'm going to buy the paper. Thanks to Mana Traders renting the Pauper deck, I now know that I can safely buy into a Pauper deck. One, because it's cheap, but two, I actually enjoyed playing that sort of deck. You can experiment without committing to an archetype yet when you are renting with Mana Traders. You can support the channel using my Mana Traders link in the description below, or save 10% off your first 2 months using coupon code Nikachu_9Y6. And now back to the banned Modern cards. Wings. Wing of Shu. Draw power in Yu-Gi-Oh is way stronger because Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't have mana to limit turn action. Every turn is inherently free in, every card is inherently free in Yu-Gi-Oh. That is ridiculous. So no wonder Yu-Gi-Oh is so busted. It's just a bunch of 0 mana. It's 0 mana the format. 0 mana the format. They have to put casting costs on those cards. Okay, so people claim that elves would take over if this card existed. I don't know if that's true. Like, maybe? First off, elves sees absolutely no play whatsoever. There is a smidge of an argument that this would see play in an affinity deck. And, you know, if you play Ornithopter, Thought Monitor, Memnite, Frogmite, the Sojourner's Companion, that this would chain out of control. That might be an argument. But I think for elves, I think elves would still get pretty crushed. I think if, in theory, elves could have perhaps if not a turn 2 win, but effectively a turn 2 win, that might be at least something to get it back into this game. Because right now it's just stone dead. A 5-turn Yu-Gi-Oh game is considered long. I don't even know if elves would be a problem between not having super strong legacy pieces and with all the removal in modern. They have all the enablers for the most part. I think they have all the enablers. Like, they have Heritage Druid, they have Wirewood Symbiote, they've got everything. You just need you just need a lot of mana, effectively infinite mana, and then Azuri or some other, not even Azuri, they don't even play that anymore. Was it the War Caller? Or War Chief? It's War something. War. He goes to war. What is our fellow? You can pay mana and you can, like, I think pump everything up. 2+2+2. So if you have infinite mana, you basically have a win. Yes, but elves is so bad right now. I would play it in a blue-green merfolk. No, Glimpse of Nature would be terrible in blue-green merfolk. At the moment, I see the count of viewers constantly go up and down. A few people stay, so it seems that more people click random to this content. No, actually what happens is some people got to go to work, so they leave, but then new people replace them. That's how it really works. Now that we have free interaction spells like Force and Negation, maybe Glimpse can get unbanned, but all that would do is enable potential turn 2, turn 3 kills, which is against the turn 4 standard, so I don't know. I will say that it's only going to try to enable turn 2 kills. Well, maybe that's not entirely true. It can also help just give an elf deck a little bit of game later on in the game when they have nothing else to do. You know, their hand is pretty exhausted, but they drew a Glimpse of Nature, then they drew a creature, so they Glimpse of Nature, play the creature. Oh, they drew another creature. Play it. Oh, they drew another creature. Yeah, Moshi's watching at work. Yeah, but there's a lot of people. They come, they go. That's the streaming life. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section. Let me know in chat. Do you think Glimpse of Nature is fair enough to unban? Is this gonna be, or is this gonna be a disaster? Is this gonna be a disaster where we were thinking too much of the elves players and we weren't thinking enough of the affinity players, which, by the way, are also very dangerous players? Dr. Magulus. I just woke up and I'm watching from bed. Does this card activates permanently? Well, just until end of turn. Oh, sorry. Yeah, just until end of turn. Whenever you play a creature spell, yeah, it doesn't have this errata. It just says whenever you cast a creature spell. Oh no, it just says this turn. Okay, so they rephrased. Okay, so let me look. Let me show you. Okay, so they actually reword. There is an errata on this. So in the past it said whenever you play a creature spell. Oh no, it always said this turn. It always said there's no errata. There's no errata. It's just whenever you play a creature spell this turn, draw a card. You got it, people? Madman, good day. My rule of bannable is an opponent forfeits upon seeing it type card and being a consistent forfeit from anyone Also, I only play Arena Brawl, so my opinion is worthless. Thank you very much for the honesty. Not sure, but we could there we go. That's the spirit. Not sure, but we can reban it if it's a problem. You know, I mean, it comes down to your banning philosophy. There's a lot of people that take the philosophy that something on the ban list should stay there unless it can benefit the format in some way. Well, if there's no benefit to it, then why ban it? And then I'm actually of the philosophy, if it's just jailed up for no reason, like unban the damn thing. It's not just that a card that could be legal is banned because people are afraid that it could be it could do bad things when in reality it could do nothing. I mean, just imagine, people. Close your eyes. Imagine Blood Moon was on the ban list and people were trying to argue for it to get off the ban list. I have a feeling Blood Moon is a card that would never get off the ban list if it was there, because it wouldn't benefit the format in some way. Or maybe it does. Maybe in theory Blood Moon is a police to, like, stupid mana bases, even though it's doing a very poor job these days. James says, do you think the modern ban list is one of the most talked about format ban lists? I'd say EDH is the only one that's close in discussion. The volume of players is much higher. Well, I think it's because Modern is the most popular competitive format, and also because it's a competitive format, we are more judgmental about the ban list. I think it's more political. I don't think the ban list in Commander is that political, and it's too casual for people to care, whereas in Modern people care a lot. What gets on and what gets off is a really big deal. But let's say Iona gets banned. Whatever, some people will be salty for a little while, but then they're just gonna go with the flow. Like, that's just how it is. But then, what's the philosophy for unbanning a card? Is there a reason to? Well, the current philosophy to the majority of the community, and I think Wizards of the Coast, is how does this card benefit a deck? Like, okay, control decks are weak right now. Let's give them Jace the Mind Sculptor. Okay, well, removal is really heavy, and we need more mid-range decks in the format. Let's unban Stoneforge Mystic. Let's encourage more mid-range. So, whereas I'm of the opinion, if this thing doesn't deserve to be on the ban list, take it off the ban list. Just get it off there. Anyway, Glimpse is a really hard one to evaluate because who knows what. In Elves, like, it's probably going to be a very good card. It just will. It will be something good on turn 2. Although we can interact on turn 2. We have Solitude, we have Fury. I think we have Fury. Maybe it won't play out the way I want it to, because if they have turn 2 first, then they can just spew out a ton of creatures before you get to do anything. Elves are weak. Let's give them Glimpse of Nature. Mock Tazuma says, found you from custom reviews. Oh yes, they're talking about me on that custom. Is it the custom review? Oh yeah, the custom Magic cards from Reddit. I think the fact that Modern's ban list had preemptive bans as well as possibly outdated bans makes it more worth discussing compared to something like Pioneer, where every card has proven it's too good. Or, like in Pioneer, I think also there was a lot of discussion because some cards were just banned early on because the card pool is too small. Smuggler's Copter has no business on that. I don't even think it's ban worthy even right now. Oh yeah, Daily Shadow for the Scarab God, the best Dimir creature ever, up to 1,600 copies. Oh my god, you're the only one moving this market. Oh well, okay, so this is a really difficult one to determine, but if we were talking about how powerful this card is, it can enable effectively turn 2 wins out of Elves. That's what it could do. That's the deck that everyone's afraid of. Alright, this one is a very... It's funny how long this card was in the format for. Golgari Grave... I was there when they unbanned Golgari Grave Troll to enable more graveyard-based decks. To encourage them. Come on, graveyard-based decks. You're, like, really lagging in Modern. We don't have enough graveyard decks. That was also the golden age of Modern, where there was not much graveyard-based decks in the format. You could argue that, you know, Modern is great when no one's using the graveyard. Then we had that faithless looting era that was horrible. So we got, Fef says, unban it just to ban it again. So hold on, unban it again to, yeah, let's unban it to reban it. Oh, you just want Dredge to come back. No, we're definitely not doing that. Wow, you people just want this thing so badly. It is one of the more broken cards on this list. I mean, Dredge as a mechanic in general is supremely broken, but so this is disgusting. Now, it was the largest dredger of all the dredgers at Dredge 6. They still have Dredge 5, Dredge 4, Dredge 3, but this is a bit too much. What kind of, I mean, you can dump your whole deck into your graveyard in like 2 to 3 turns, thanks to Golgari Grave Troll. And Faithless Looting. So maybe it might be a little bit slower these days. Is there really so much actual organic support for unbanning this? This is ridiculous. What, you lost your damn minds? Green now has Endurance and Force of Vigor, so having Golgari Grave Troll be green does matter. That's true. It's Force of Vigor could now be a tool being played in the Dredge decks, or any sort of Golgari Grave Troll deck, in order to deal with the opponent's artifact hate. Deal with their Rest in Pieces, their Grafdigger's Cages, Relic of Progenituses, Tormod's Crypts. Crack that damn thing. And it does sometimes exist as a 15/15 creature. Yeah, don't forget, sometimes you can just hardcast this thing. Dredge is dead now because Living End is a better deck. Make no mistake, Living End is just a better deck right now. That's not to say that Dredge is a bad deck. I promise you all, I promise you, mark my words, you ban the card Living End and Dredge is just the deck that replaces it. Not as good, but still pretty damn good. What is so bad about it? It's only a skeleton troll, so it can't be good. This is just a weird jank. I have to admit, like, the first time I read Golgari Grave Troll, I'm like, this is just a weird janky card. But then you see it in action, you see what it does. It's the Dredge 6. All these words, they don't matter. This casting cost, it doesn't matter. Its name, it doesn't matter. Its creature type, doesn't matter. All the text, about 95% of the real estate on the text box also doesn't matter. Just Dredge 6, that's the only thing that matters. Nothing matters on this card. Mikey J says, as someone who plays free spells, I think all free spells need to be banned, except the ones I play, of course. You speak really well for the combo players, Mikey J. Can you cast Golgari Grave Troll? Yeah, in the late game. In late game, when you have like a bunch of mana from Life from the Loam, you can start casting Golgari Grave Trolls, no problem. You gotta slow down the dredging at some point. I mean, if you're not gonna win by the time you deck yourself, then you gotta slow it down. You gotta start hard casting these cards. With Faithless Looting being banned, I could see this being fine coming off the ban list. I don't. Definitely not. Never got to cast mine when it was legal. I really like Troll in my combo. Everyone loves Troll in their combo. Anyway, this is one of the most powerful combo enablers, easily. Oh, this is such a bad card on the ban list. This is such a bad card. Okay, so we talked about how powerful cards are, and Golgari Grave Troll I'd put at a 10. Green Sun Zenith, it's just a tutor. Green X. Search your library for a green creature card with mana value X or less, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Then shuffle Green Sun Zenith into its owner's library. Search your library for a green creature card with mana value X or less, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Shuffle Green Sun Zenith into its owner's library. Why do we have to shuffle twice? It's even in the errata. They didn't even errata this thing. Anyway, I don't think this card's worthy of being banned. I think this is one of the dumber cards on the ban list. Would it be a better tutor for a lot of decks that would use it? Sure, but there is a lot of tutors in the format as it is right now. There's like so many tutors that I don't think it makes that big of a difference. In fact, some of the tutors are better. Things like Corticalling, for example, can let you tap your creatures in order to get cards into play, whereas you need to pay the mana cost on this thing. You got to pay the entire X. And it's only green creature cards. It's only green creature cards. Dryad Arbor, turn 1 play. Yeah, but then you just bolt it. It's like bolting the bird like anything else. Yeah, you do the shuffle. Yeah, giving Amulet Titan more tools to search is great. I think this is one of the clunkier ones, though. I don't know. Would they even play this? Seriously, would they even play this? Summoner's Pact is better, right? Summoner's Pact is just better. Like, maybe they would play a few copies, but I don't think it would put it over the top. It'd be the second best tutor in everyone's deck. It might even be the third best tutor. Chord costs more mana? No, because not necessarily, because you can tap creatures in order to pay the cost of the card. Depends on the deck. Green Sun Zenith demands that you have raw mana. Tutor a Boreal Grazer, Titan, or Dryad or Titan, depending on the game stage. Yep, that would be. We can do. You still can do that. You can do that with Summoner's Pact. Although I have to admit, Summoner's Pacting for Dryad of the Elysian Grove sort of sucks. So Green Sun Zenith for 4 mana for Dryad is convenient. Free Green Sun Zenith. I want my Modern Maverick. It's banned for the long shuffling. You gotta shuffle, then you have to shuffle again. That's very weird that they didn't errata this card. Put on the battlefield, shuffle, then shuffle Green Sun Zenith. Maybe there's a reason for it. I don't know. You can't pact early because of mana. Well, in a Titan deck, you're not gonna really Green Sun Zenith either. I guess they'll put one. Would they put one Dryad in their deck? Maybe, maybe not. Tell me, Titan players, would you play this card? Amulet specifically. I'm sure another type of Titan deck would play this card. What do you think of Armageddon Unbanned in Modern? It's not legal. It's not a banned card. But I think it would be neat if we had Armageddon in Modern. That's the type of card, though, people would just be very unhappy with. Very, very unhappy with. I already experienced Armageddon because of Boil and Choke and stuff like that. Can't people just agree to just one shuffle to shortcut on time? Well, they would. They do. The first shuffle is because of the tutor ability. The second shuffle is because of all Zenith shuffle back. They didn't merge for consistency effects. Oh well. So it's just a aesthetically pleasing thing. Yawgmoth combo can use to search some pieces to set up the combo, even if you cannot search for black creatures. I can see it in the deck. But it still might not make the cut because it doesn't look for the key card itself, Yawgmoth. Like, you're not going to be bumping other tutors for this card. You won't do it. You won't do it. Titan Shift would play this. We need better early ramp. I want Nature's Lore or 3 visits. That's, yeah, I think, would Titan Shift play this thing? I guess. It would be good to find Dryad in that deck. Dryad of the Elysian Grove and then play out some creatures. Green Sun Zenith could effectively be like extra copies of the Dryad in that deck. I think. I don't know if Dryad Arbor would be good in a Titan Shift deck, though. I don't know. Also, unlike Pact, your choice is hidden and no chance to respond to entering. I don't get it. Oh, I see. This tutors directly into play. That is a point. But I don't think it is a great one. I think this is one of the absolute weakest cards on the ban list. I think we have a lot of comparable cards already in Modern. We have a lot of great tutors. This is just another tutor on this similar but different power level. I think Summoner's Pact is just a better tutor than this. I think Summoner's Pact, for all intents, for the purposes of busted combos, Summoner's Pact is a better card because it costs nothing. No, there's no BNR announcement soon. We're just having fun. So I think Green Sun Zenith is grossly jailed for absolutely no reason. Do this for Pioneer. Oh, we'll get around to it for Pioneer as well. Elves would smash us? I doubt it. Elves also has all the tutors they could possibly want. Like, we have like great tutors. We've got, like, what's the roll call here? We've got Neoform. We've got Court of Calling. We've got Eldritch Evolution. We've got Summoner's Pact. Like, how many other tutors do you want? This extra tuner doesn't change hardly anything. What do you think about it in Vivian Planar Bound Accomplice deck? It's probably clunky. It's probably, but and they, I mean, they might use it. You can't find any Planeswalkers though. Finale of Devastate. I totally forgot about that one. Finale of Devastation. Eladamri's Call. We have great tutor. Finale of Devastation, by the way, is basically like Green Sun Zenith, but it's a win condition. So for 1 extra green, you can search your library and or graveyard. You actually can bring stuff from the graveyard back to the battlefield. With convert mana cost extra or less, put onto the battlefield. If you search your library this way, shuffle it. Only 1 shuffle. If X is 10 or more, creatures you control get +X/+X and gain haste until end of turn. So it's like a win condition. For 1 extra green, you get a win condition in here. Dr. Magulus says, in my honest opinion, Green Sun Zenith isn't a combo card, it's a value card, and one that's good at literally every stage in the game. It can probably be unbanned, but I feel it's become, this becomes Titan number 5 to 8. Yeah, but probably Titans 5 to 8 could also be Finale of Devastation if they wanted to. The Titan decks have a lot of mana. I honestly don't think they have that much room for this. They might play a few copies. I don't think they play the full 4. I could be completely wrong, though, so you Titan players, you can let me know in the comments section if you're playing this card. But in the grand scheme of things, I wouldn't really care. I wouldn't really care. It still gets... You can interact with it with Grafdigger's Cage and some other stuff. As a green mage, Green Sun Zenith is way too versatile and powerful. It's literally almost never a dead card unless you're about to lose anyway. Now, how do you explain this card? I mean... The only thing with Finale of Devastation that's balanced is that you can't play it on turn 1. You can't get that Dryad Arbor. That's the bonus to Green Sun Zenith. Finale of Devastation is not good on turn 1, or turn 2, I should say. You need to wait until you have enough mana that you make some real serious use out of this. Titan Shift will play a full 4. Amulet might play 2 or 3. It's basically 1 mana Rampant Growth with Dryad Arbor. Yeah, then Bolt the Bird. Do you not realize, like, it's going to be vulnerable in that way. We have a lot of removal. I think fetching out Dryad Arbor is grossly overblown. I think getting this is grossly overrated. Very, very overrated. What do you think? Why do you think Utopia Sprawl is like the go-to mana ramp in Modern? Yes. Yes, people, why is Utopia Sprawl the go-to mana dork and even a Boreal Grazer? Even a Boreal Grazer. Why? Tell me, people, why? Because you can't bolt these things. We can bolt the Grazer, but the damage is done. You're still going to get the land. But the Dryad Arbor, when it's dead, it's dead. So what? It can go back in your deck. It's probably less harmful in your deck than in the graveyard. So I actually think Green Sun Zenith, the fact that it can tutor up a Dryad Arbor is actually to everyone's detriment, not their benefit. And also you can't block so well with those Green Sun Zenith Dryad Arbors. You can block way better with a Boreal Grazer. I just feel like Green Sun Zenith ban was before Finale and from a time when Melira was the thing, and things changed and they forgot about it. I know they still know about it, but they're scared. They're very scared. Very, very scared. Put it back? Huh? Oh, Ren and 6 bring the Dryad Arbor back perpetually, but then you can't add mana with it. I mean, that is an idea, I guess. Anyway, I think Green Sun Zenith is a super garbage card compared to everything on the ban list. Very, very fair. I think it would see play, but we wouldn't really notice it all that much. It wouldn't be that big of a deal. I think this easily could come off the ban list and is not nearly as powerful as the other cards on this list. All right, that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I love it. As usual, we do this Monday to Friday, 8 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time. Be there or be square. Thanks so much for the support with the super chats. Thank you very much for becoming members of Coffee and MTG. Because Hey, that lets me know that you love it, and we got to keep doing this every single weekday. So thank you, because without all of you, there'd be no conversation. What would we talk about? It'd just be me talking to myself in front of a camera for like 1 hour, as a lot of YouTubers do. No, this show is something because you guys show up every morning with me. So, keep brewing up those coffees, and we'll keep brewing up the magic. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you